In this video, I'm going to look at how democracies fail, and believe it or not, it has a lot to do with business. This is one of the big questions that people try to answer. How do democracies fail? When you look at history, there are a number of examples where governments collapsed into tyranny. This is a big fear. Could our democracy fail? Why did people choose to give up their freedoms? If it happened before, will it happen again? And how can we stop it from happening again? I'm going to look at two examples to show you what went wrong and how it relates to what is going on in the world right now. The first example is the Bolshevik Revolution. This was the moment Russia turned into the Soviet Union. Russia used to be ruled by a monarchy. The monarchy was overthrown and replaced by a democracy. So Russia was actually a democracy for a short time. Then the democracy was overthrown by the communists in the Bolshevik Revolution. Russia became the Soviet Union. Lenin took power and ruled the country as a dictator. This had catastrophic consequences for the Russian people. Specifically, Lenin tried to kill all the rich people in Russia. This was known as the Red Terror, and it's estimated that Lenin killed 100,000 of his own people. Russia has never recovered. The second example is Nazi Germany during World War II. A lot of people wonder, how did Hitler rise to power, and why didn't anyone stop him? Germany was a democracy, but Hitler seized power and ruled Germany like a dictator. In 1934, Hitler ordered what became known as the Night of the Long Knives. His troops went house to house, killing anyone who opposed him. Ever since those murders, people were afraid to speak up, and Hitler ruled as a dictator, killing millions of his own people in concentration camps during World War II. So we have the Bolshevik Revolution and Nazi Germany. What is in common between these two examples? Inflation. Both Russia and Germany were suffering through extreme inflation. Inflation destabilizes society and can lead to a collapse of the government. What else is in common? Both Lenin and Hitler were poor. They didn't have any money. They were regular people. At one point, Hitler was living in homeless shelters. This is important to understand because if they were not wealthy, how did they pay for their political campaigns to take over the government? They were funded. Something I always say is to follow the money. The Bolshevik Revolution was well funded by bankers around the world. Since this happened so long ago, the evidence is unclear exactly how the funding happened, but it included people like Olaf Aschberg from Sweden and Jacob Schiff from New York. Wherever the money came from, it is clear that Lenin was well funded when he rose to power. What followed was communism, and the government killed millions of Russia's own people to remain in power. Here's the sequence of events. Inflation. Rich people fund political campaigns seeking greater government control. A dictator seizes power. Millions die. Now, I honestly do not think the bankers knew that Lenin was going to become a dictator. When Lenin overthrew the democracy, Jacob Schiff was furious and asked to get his money back. The question is, why would rich people lobby for more government control in the first place? Isn't that anti-free markets? It's because of greed. They think that a stronger government will pay them back by giving their businesses favoritism in the country. In a great irony, after Lenin took control, he tried to kill all the rich people in Russia by ordering the Great Terror. Once Lenin killed the rich people and seized their money, there was no one left to challenge him. Just to give you an idea of what the Red Terror was like, here's a description from a newspaper at the time. We are not fighting against single individuals. We are exterminating the bourgeoisie as a class. Do not look in the file of incriminating evidence to see whether or not the accused rose up against the Soviets with arms or words. Ask him instead to which class he belongs. What is his background, his education, his profession? These are the questions that will determine the fate of the accused. That is the meaning and the essence of the Red Terror. So it did not matter if you did anything wrong. You were just killed for being rich. A very similar pattern exists with the rise of Nazi Germany. Inflation. Rich people fund political campaigns seeking greater government control. A dictator seizes power. Millions die. So who funded Hitler? This may be shocking to hear, but a number of Americans funded the Nazi Party. This is something they don't teach you about in business school, but it is well documented. In 1998, the Washington Post published a detailed expose on the participation of Ford and General Motors in World War II. Here is a photo of Henry Ford receiving one of Germany's highest awards, the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, in 1938. Hitler said that he kept a photo of Henry Ford on his desk. People do not realize, but Ford and General Motors accounted for 70% of the German car market at the outbreak of World War II. Germany was big business, and if the government took control, it would guarantee more business for American car companies. Now, Ford and General Motors deny that they had any knowledge of what was happening in their plants in Germany. You can believe that if you want. But we do know a couple things for sure. The American companies received dividends from their German subsidiaries. The German-based plants were retooled to make German military equipment, and the plants were staffed with forced labor from prisoners of war. The Night of the Long Knives happened in 1934. Henry Ford accepted the medal from Hitler in 1938. Now, the Night of the Long Knives was public knowledge. It was on the front page of newspapers around the world. So why would these wealthy people support such a publicly brutal dictator who murders his opponents? They are being greedy. Now again, I do not think that Henry Ford knew that Hitler was going to kill millions of his own people. But it is clear that a lot of wealthy people funded the rise of the Nazi Party. When we look at the pattern of the Bolshevik Revolution and Nazi Germany together, we can see what the problem is. There is one moment where everything goes wrong. It is wealthy business people advocating to give the government more control. That is the mistake. We should not be giving the government more control. We should be giving the government less control. Government is who created the problem of inflation in the first place. More government is not the solution. Free markets are the solution, and free markets require freedom. So why is this relevant today? Because we are in the exact same situation with skyrocketing inflation. Just weeks ago, there was a lot of wealthy people at the World Economic Forum advocating for more government control. A lot of those same American businesses support the tyrannical government crackdowns in China. I just hope we have learned our lesson and do not repeat the mistakes from history. What happens next is up to us. We should be working together to give our government less control over our lives, not more. Now I want to hear from you. How do you think we should handle the problem of inflation? Do you think we should give the government more control? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Let's go out and make some money.